All right, I am recording another Zoroark Terapagos deck profile. I hope this mic is picking me up. Um, I am currently like 9-0, I think, with this list through a you know through two locals, a 5 round and a 4 round. Have not lost a game. Have played against bad matchups. Have played against good players. So I was asked to do a deck profile because I know Jake is listening to this and he wants to play the list, and I see he needs a master class on it. So I'm going to talk about the list, and I'm going to talk about the deck matchups, like the matchups, the good ones, the bad ones. How to play everything, and what I've learned since the last deck profile I put up. This list is very different from the old one, but So let's just start. Three Zoroark, three Zorua. You don't need more than this. Very rarely will you get a triple Zoroark game, and if you do, you honestly are not doing great. It's super redundant to play more Zoroarks than this because all of the draw isn't it's not it's not as helpful as you'd think it is, shockingly. Like, yes, it's good to get six draws, but the board space shockingly is very tight despite the area zero in the list. So you really only need this many. A two Zorua, two Zoroark game is, the most average game you'll have. It's your best setup. It gets you everything. Your PP up engine is pretty much secure. You can very easily win games with one Zoroark too. Like, trade is just so powerful, and so is Night Joker. And of course, with Zoroark, we have the Zoroark package, which is one Reshiram, a 1/1 Darumaka, down from 2/2. Um, for Destined Rivals, Shaman is so good that playing more than this feels bad. I've been recommended to do 1/2 because it's way easier to find basics than it is to find evolutions. I might do that in a future list, but right now this list feels very consistent. Darmanitan feels like a brick a lot of the time, but you still want it because if they don't get a Shaman down, like if their basic search isn't good enough to find a Shaman along with their setup, you love to be able to threaten Flame Body Cannon, and even for late game Flame Body Cannons, if you knock out Shaman with a line I'm going to show later. Reshiram, actually way more important right now. The new deck from Destined Rivals, Grimmsnarl Frostlass. This card with Zoroark, incredible into it. It is a lot of that matchup, and it's a tough matchup. So having the powerful rage attack is super important. It pretty much wins you that matchup. It's incredible, really. Then we have everything else. Two Pegos, one Clefairy. This is the same as before. Two Pegos, really the only Terra you need to open up your bench. No abilities, so it's not getting pinged by Frostlasses. 230 HP, so you need double Monkey to kill it from Gardevoirs. It's just a really good card. Scales really well. Clefairy, still as good as ever. 280 cap in non-Area 0 mirror matchups. 340 cap with Area 0, or with both players using Area 0. Still incredible card. Its uses are kind of fringe still, but when it's used really well. It's also your way to donk. It's a kind of consistent donk. Like, you have to find energy, PP up, E switch, attach, all that good stuff, but that's not super hard to find with the consistency this list plays. And of course, talking about that consistency, one Tatsugiri, one Squawkabilly. Squawkabilly, new addition since I believe Squawkabilly was the new addition, not Tatsugiri, but they're both very good. Squawkabilly is a card I've had to come around on a lot. I paid a good money for this alt art. So Squawk and Seize obviously reads really bad. Like, you could discard PPFs, E-switches, really good supporters like Ionos or Arvins going, but it's also how you go first. If your hand isn't extremely broken, you have to Squawkabilly turn one just to try and get advantage, to try and get out of the gate, have your aggressive setup that you really need to get into your grindy late games. And this gets you into it. It also works really well with the supporter that we'll talk about later. Squawkabilly, incredible card. You really have to be confident playing it, because if you're not confident and if you are really wishy-washy on if you should Squawkabilly, you should usually Squawkabilly. If your hand does not have a very good play or a very strong board going first, but you have Ball Search, you should grab Squawk ability so you can always have a setup. Tatsugiri is annoying, frustrating that you have to play him because we play a lot of supporters. So he can hit very well, but he loves to whiff. The fish he loves to whiff. We have our good stuff all in full art because I'm bougie. Latias and Petch, very important for a metagame that's currently liking to build a lot around Maractus locking. Pult lists are doing it. Other Zoroark lists are doing it. If other people are still playing Zoroark in this format, um, just a lot of lists like to have a Maractus backup plan or like control one the corner Nackley, but Petron can move up Fez, Latias free retreat, back into anything else. Even Petch can even just move up Zoroarks. So really, they're all good. They're all incredibly good cards. Like these cards don't need an explanation. Irritated Outburst also a good attack because I won a game with it in Milwaukee. A Zoroark mirror. They tried to. It was turn 3 of time. They're on 1 prize down. They did not realize I could just Irritated Outburst for game. On 2 cards, it was very funny. Next, we have our defensive support Pokemon, and also the only other 1 prize support Pokemon in the deck. 1 Maractus. So this is actually our Shaman answer. We are also, of course, playing Shaman because this is a really good card. So into Darmanitan, a lot of players will, immediately bench Shaman. They don't want to get Darmanican, and they don't want their setup to be miffed. But with Maractus, we now have a really solid play into that because we can go, all right, bench Maractus, attach, countercatcher, corner, and if we are able to, we can corner lock them for up to 4 turns. Even better with Monkey Dory, if we're able to move damage onto their Shaman to knock it out mid-turn. If that is a play that comes up, they have damage on our board. It's really good because we're able to take a mid-turn knockout and then threaten like Darmanitan on crackback or even like on the same turn where we have the time with corner to build up a really strong board, build up a Zoroark that's going to be able to flame body cannon. It also just is really good at sitting in the active spot and applying very light pressure. When I played versus Dragapult, Crobat, Dusknoir, I actually started Maractus and just cornered on the first turn, and even though they went Candy, Attach, Neo Upper, Knockout, it had 80 total damage on it from Exploding Needles, so I was able to knock it out with a Terapagos on a following turn. So Maractus is actually really good. Shaman, generally good card. Monkey Dory, another new addition, has been so important. The cards, it's Monkey Dory. It's really good. Come on, like, yeah. And then finally the last 2 slots, we have cut the Luxray instead for the Blood Moon. I know I talked about that last time, but Blood Moon is just way too strong. It will win games on its own. Well, obviously not on its own because it can't do that. But 240, really good number. 240 does a lot. It cleans up a lot of gummy board states. It will. I won the 5-0 league because Dragon Ball player had Blood Moon Ursaluna down because I had to start it, and I went countercatcher Blood Moon swing into it. Didn't knock it out. He already burned his switch and his rescue board. Couldn't retreat, so I was able to go Monkey Dory, knockout Draclook on bench, blood scratch for game, set up because of the Blood Moon. Volcanion is the weirdest card in the deck. There is a lot of reason to cut him, but a passive 20 damage boost to all of your attackers is really good. There's some situations where it just doesn't come up, but that's always going to happen. But the biggest thing that it does is for Goldengo, these all now can kill Goldengo. Well, both of these can kill Goldengo and not trigger Fez. Fez is, so much of their draw engine. But if you go Iono, Volcanion Burn, Latias Retreat, Blood Moon Knockout, they're going to struggle to find that crackback because they might have 2 Dengos plus Fez, but their Fez isn't going to trigger. They're going to get 3 draws plus draw for turn. So it really is going to depend, if they're able to find crackback on the Blood Moon. And if they can't, you can always patch something up, retreat, and swing again. There's a lot you can do. Like obviously that doesn't use the Volcanion, but the Volcanion is set up a winning game state where you can even just go like Gust Fez knockout. All right, moving on to trainers. Let's go through supporters. So this trainer lineup, just keep in mind we have Tatsugiri, so that's why we're on so many. And some changes since last time. Obviously for Arven, obviously goes with our A spec, the Precious Trolley. Like we'll just talk about this now. This is the best card in the deck. Obviously it's the pink card. If you draw the pink card, you win the game. Sets up the entire board. You do the classic Precious Trolley deck play where you go Trolley Evo TM up into 2 Zoroarks, and you have a really good board for a crackback. You play every out to find this Tatsugiri plus Squawkabilly. Obviously, we're not on like every out because we're not playing Pokegears because that card is terrible. We're not playing Call Bell, but yeah, Trolley, incredible. Arven, good throughout the entire game, but at some point you do start discarding them off of Zoroarks. Next is 3 copies of Iono. Obvious, great card. The deck was built with an original theory of Terapagos, but it can play a lot more disruption, and that theory still rings true because we're still on 3 copies of Iono that are able to really well disrupt an opponent's hand. They're really good late game. They're really good as just a general draw card. You can find on Tatsugiri. Yeah, Iono, good card. Not shocking stuff here. Then, very interesting, 2 copies of Cyrano. This idea brought to you by Gwen Tran of Project Artemis. After Milwaukee, she put me on the Cyrano. Wish she put me on it before, but it's okay. I love you, Gwen. Cyrano's really good. I was not a believer, but with all of these EX targets, it's very easy to see why the card is so good. If you don't draw Arven and you're going second, Cyrano's great. You could go Cyrano, search Terapagos, Squawkabilly, Latias. This is a good turn 1 setup. If you go second and you prize Evo TM, you can go grab Pagos, 2 Zoroarks if you need it. Later in the game, you can just thin out your errant EXs that are stuck in the deck. You can do a lot with Cyrano. He is a shockingly good card in the list. He really does help the consistency a lot. I was on a Brock scouting, but that card is really bad, so I stopped playing it. And instead, now we're on the Cyrano. As my friend Jake described him as, he's Hoopa. He's Hoopa on a supporter, which if he plays too much 2016. Next up, 2 copies of Boss. Obviously, we were on 2 counter character before, but 2 Boss is just better because we can find them off Tatsugiri. No real need to explain that one. This card you do need to explain. Team Rocket's Petrol. This card is really bad. I know I just talked about Brock's scouting being bad, but this card is better at least because he searches Area 0. I've had to describe this to a lot of people before, then they understand why I'm playing this. He's an out to Area 0, he's an out to Trolley, he's an out to Evo TM, he's an out to whatever you need if you already have a piece. But if you also have, like, if your hand has, if my hand has, like, a Boss I don't want to play that turn, or a Cyrano I don't have targets for, or an Iono on a turn I don't want to disrupt my opponent's hand, but I also have Petrol in the hand, I'm going to go, alright, Petrol for some consistency piece I'm going to need on another turn. Like, he's really good at also just setting up your hand for another turn and forcing your opponent to try and Iono you out of it. And if they don't, I now have another piece to threaten my opponent with. So he has won me games. He's grabbed Counter Catcher, he's grabbed Area 0, he's grabbed Trolley, he's grabbed pretty much every trainer in the deck. He's a very good card. I'm kind of shocked how good he is. Alright, now we have just the normal trainers. 3 PP up, 2 E-switch. Just going to start here. This is the main thesis of the deck, pretty much. PP up onto a Zoroark, or pretty much anything, and then E-switch it off so that we can power up everything in the deck. Lily's Clefairy, Terapagos, even like Pecharunt, Maractus works, Monkey Dory works. Like, these 3 are niche. These 3 you're doing almost every game. Like, yes, you can attach twice to a Terapagos, or attach phase 2 Clefairy, but if you want to power them up in one turn, you have so much explosive potential with these. It also works opponent on 3 prizes, you can go Blood Moon, attach PP up E-Switch in one turn. I've had to do double PP up, double E-Switch plays. It happens, but it's really good. Really, this is such a good way to build Zoroark. It lets you toolbox so much. You can do it with I've seen people do it with Okidogi or Roaring Moon. I think those are worse. They're a lot more fragile and they need a lot more to go off. Pagos Clefairy, so consistent, so powerful. They are always useful. Then we have our consistency: 2 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Ball, 1 Trolley. With Trolley, you don't need more basic search. 2 Ultra Ball seems weird, but because we have Cyrano, we don't really need the Ultra Ball searches as often. Obviously, you still like to have Ultra Ball. Sometimes you just need it to discard energy for PP up. Sometimes, you just want to thin your hand out for an Iono. So we're still playing Ultra Ball. It's just, you don't need it as much because of a card like Cyrano. And then, finally, we got the one-ofs. Our Recovery, a Rod, and a Stretcher. You need both, but you don't want to play 2 copies of one of them, and I don't think there's anywhere else you could really fit them, and I don't think you really need more copies of Rod or more copies of Stretcher. They're really good cards, they're just not great. Like, they're good in the list, it's just they're not perfect. You have to play them super conservatively, though. You have to be very smart with how you're using these. You have to think, is there a way where I can play a line without having to use my Stretcher? Or would that require too many resources? Like the other night, I had to debate between Stretcher grab back energy to attack or PP up because I had an E-Switch in hand to attack. But Stretcher used less resources. It's just I had to play now around, all right, I don't have recovery card for one of my recovery cards for the rest of the game. Catcher good, Vessel good. Nothing else really to say. You only play, so with Vessel, we are only on the 7 energy to search for it, or to search with it. So no reason to play more, and no reason to play none, because you really like to see your energy in this list, shockingly. Yep, that's the energy lineup. Cut Reversal, because all of our reversal abusers, Luxray, Darmanitan, have been cut slim down from the deck. Just, you don't need them. And then we have our other trainers. 3 Area Zero, 1 TM, 1 Defiance. 1 TM might seem weird in a deck where, we're going Arven TM most games, but with Cyrano, it kind of works out really well, actually, like really strangely well, where you're pretty much always getting Zoroark turn 2, even if you haven't drawn the energy for the area for the TM Evo, or you just haven't drawn well enough to set up really well, or if you haven't resolved your Arven to grab Precious Trolley and you just have to go like Nest Ball and then Squawk and you draw into your Zorwas. You just don't need the second TM as much. It kind of just bricks in your hand. Defiance Band, I was flip-flopping between Defiance Band and Bravery Charm for a while. Settled on Defiance Band because it makes your EVs match up way better. It makes it also really does help in the Grimmsnarl matchup. I do like it in Grimmsnarl because it means a Clefairy can punch up into one if they have a full bench and you have a full bench of 8. You do 280, 210 with 310 with this, and then they'll take a 10 ping off of Frostlass and get knocked out. So Defiance Band is actually really good still. Yeah, so that's the list, and so I'm gonna explain a lot of matchups now. It's gonna be a lot of just me talking while throwing cards out. So just bear with me. So obviously most games, it is just get Zoroark out. Like, get 2 Zoroarks out, set up your draw engine, obviously. And that's your initial game plan. And that might seem like your entire game plan, but it's not. I will say about this list, it has a very, very high skill floor. The floor to get into this deck is really hard because you will just find a lot of hands where it's a puzzle to solve how you will get out of it, how you should play it, and playing it optimally is not easy. But I'm hoping that this video at least helps explain the general, how you should generally be playing the list. So obviously it's a lot of get out your draw engine, Draw Engine is so good. You get to flex card advantage over your opponent so often with Zoroark. You get to flex having a bigger hand, being able to draw out of Stamp and Iono way more than like knocked out engines. So and also having a backup attacker with your engine also being your attacker, but also your engine not being your only attacker like in a normal Zoroark build, and opponents not being able to just target down your Darmanitan or your Reshiram to completely turn off your attacking. That's why this deck is so good, because we don't have to attack with these. There are a lot of matchups where you don't attack with them. So that's like your general setup is so okay. Sorry, this is unscripted too, so I'm just kind of talking. Let me find. Hold on. So obviously your Arven is always going to grab something like this. It pretty much will always do this unless you have one piece in the hand already. But your Trolley, you might not know what to grab. So let's just say I opened Zorua. So then I would go Precious Trolley, Trolley Effects, Zorua, Pagos, Latias, Squawk, depending on how big or how good your hand is. You really have to you have to be very good at judging the quality of your opening hand when it comes to playing Squawk. But generally, this is what you always need, no matter what is in the active slot. Like, you could open Reshiram, which is a pretty mid opener. This is what your board should always be after a Trolley. There's very, very few matchups where it shouldn't be this. Grimmsnarl Frostlass is kind of one, because they can really easily knock out your Latias, but they could do that anyway. Zoroark Mirror is not great to have the Latias down in, but this gives you free retreat. So everything has really good movement, and it lets you, retreat into Terapagos, commit the TM, commit the energy, TM up into two Zoroarks, and now you have a fully set up board. And then you still have one target off the Trolley. You can choose to, eschew the Trolley target. You don't need the fifth one, but you can either set up a Darumaka if it's good in the matchup and you want to threaten Flame Body Cannon. You can grab Monkey Dory into Pult, or against what's the matchup? Grimmsnarl Frostlass. So these two, very good for Grimmsnarl Frostlass. This good for any evolving deck. Or Dengo. Grab a third Zorua if you think it's important in the matchup. There's not going to be many matchups where you're gonna feel it's super important, but sometimes maybe like against Terapagos, setting up a third Zoroark because Area Zero is always going to be in play can be fine. You can grab Petch if you think you're going to be having to if you're getting walled out a lot of matchup. Tatsu if your hand can't Squawk but also doesn't have a good supporter in it. So if Terapagos gets knocked out, you can just retreat you can just go into Tatsugiri to start the turn. Sometimes Volcanion into Joltik Box and Dengo. You will grab Volcanion to be able to pressure Pikachu with Scalding Steam and stuff. Fez, probably my most often grab off of the fifth Trolley slot. If my board is already like this, I would usually grab Fez Reshiram into most matchups, or sub out Reshiram for Darumaka, because it's just threatening the most stuff. I have the most options on this. Usually you're not grabbing Maractus, but sometimes you want to grab Maractus to punish Iron Bundle if it comes down, to punish. It's really just Maractus is really just here to try and punish your opponent for playing around stuff. If they have like a Latias out and say they've already had to burn their switch, or they've already shown like burning a Turo, you can put Maractus down and then next turn threaten a corner lock. It happens very often, but again, this deck is very good at playing into fringe niche case scenarios. So that is like your turn one. Pretty much every turn one you want to do that. But what if you don't open Arven? What if you don't open Trolley? What if your hand just has like an energy, a nest ball, and then like some Pokemon? I don't know. You open Zorua, you open Tatsugiri. like we're just gonna construct like a mid opening hand, say area 0 and this is 5, 6, 7. Like let's just say this is your opening hand, and you're on second. What do you do with this? Well, you obviously will always open Tatsugiri, and you'll always try and hit with this. If you don't hit with this, it's fine. But if you don't hit exactly Arven or Petrol off of this, just do not grab anything. Because you can just go Zorua, Nest Ball for Squawkabilly, run out the area 0, squawk the hand away. You also can just hold the attract customers until afterwards, but I wouldn't because we have area 0 Nest Ball in the hand. Meaning if this does find the Arven, we're just able to go Nest Ball instead of Squawkabilly for Pagos, Arven, Trolley, then Trolley grabs the Squawkabilly, plus we have 8 board spaces to play around with. So most every hand, you're just trying to set up as much as possible. Like even if your opening doesn't even have Nest Ball in it, just try and do as much as you can. Like even if your open has Stretcher Super Rod, I've had an opening like this before where it's a hand where I have to Squawkabilly, but I open both of these. You have to prioritize your setup over everything else, so you will often have to, so sometimes you'll just have to dump these off of Squawkabilly, and that will happen, and it's gonna suck, and it's gonna hurt a lot, and you might lose because of it, but you can also very much win because of this. Like you can still win just because you were, brave enough and you had the understanding of, well, if my deck is going to set up, it's not going to win because I'm able to recover better than my opponent, it's because I'm able to set up better than my opponent. And this Squawkabilly plus, this Tatsugiri, whatever you open, can help you find Arven, it can help you find Petrol or Serrano. So let's also talk about the Serrano opening. Going second, you won't open Arven, but sometimes you go open Serrano. Serrano is such a weird card to open, but it is good because, your turn 1, it can just be Squawkabilly, Terapagos, Latias. And I know I've talked about this already, but even these 3 are very good. Squawkabilly refreshes the hands, Latias gives you retreat if you need to retreat, if you're on second and aren't able to find like Zorua's Evo TM or anything like that. If you're not able to find that, you're still able to just have movement. You can move into, if you have to, a Maractus to body block for a turn to set up damage. You can even just retreat into Tatsugiri if your hand isn't like proactive enough for the crackback. You can try and find any of your other supporters that do more. So the Serrano opening is really still very good actually. He still definitely sets up your board way, way better than Brock's Scouting ever did. Because that card is really, really bad. So in a lot of your opening hands are super flexible. They're all kind of like mini puzzles you have to solve. But once you're able to understand really how your opening turn should be played, you really are going to see a lot of success with the deck. The opening turn is the most important turn. Also super important for the deck is understanding that you can donk. If it's a 30 HP donk, you can just do this. You go Scalding, you can actually go Serrano for Volcanion, Latias, Petron. So, and if you have Zorua on board, you go bench these 3, Latias retreat into Volcanion, burn, switch up, scratch for game. That's your 40 HP donk. Or your 30 HP donk. There's nothing with 40 HP. There is Clefairy donking lines. It's very, very hard to get the Clefairy donk to really go off, but you can do it. I have donked with Clefairy before, but it requires... So here's what it requires. You need an Energy Engrave, an Energy in hand to attach. You need a PP up and an E-switch, and an Ends Pokemon. But if you get all of this, which is not super impossible with Tatsu, Squawkabilly, and then, all of our supporters, if you're able to pull all of it off, you are able to donk with the deck. You are able to get some some going second donks. I've done it before. The line is not super hard. Sometimes the sequencing is very weird, but you definitely can do it. It's kind of crazy when it goes off. So now I'm just gonna talk about matchups, I guess. Couldn't tell I'm not super used to doing this. So I think one of the biggest matchup concerns I have heard from, talking about the list with people, they are very worried about the Grimmsnarl Frostlass matchup, which is a very reasonable matchup to be concerned about because it very much reads as a hard matchup. Budew Frostlass was already like a very mid matchup. You would go Terapagos into it. Terapagos hits over everything, isn't affected by Frostlass. They kind of had to do a lot to get rid of the Terapagos. But while that's true, you were also you won that matchup a lot. But sometimes they just butted you out of the game. You drew like Arven, and then you didn't have trolley access for the whole game, and then your setup was just really wonky. It happened. But now in modern Budew Frostlass lists, they're playing a big ass Grimmsnarl who's able to really hurt your board. Something that most people don't know that I feel like I now have to explain: Shaman does not protect EXs. I don't know why nobody knows this. They're very bad at reading cards, it seems, but Shaman does not protect your EXs on bench, so your Zoroarks can be sniped, your Squawks can be sniped, your Latias can be sniped, Volcanion should never come down in the matchup, your Petch can be sniped, Clefairy also really doesn't often come down unless it's winning the game that turn, your Fez can be sniped, your Bloodmoon can be sniped if you open it or something. Like, all of these can be hit by even under Shaman, but you want to put Shaman down because it's going to protect. It'll protect your Monkey Dory, it'll protect your Reshiram, it'll protect your Zoroark, it'll protect your Tatsu if you need it. So Shaman, one of probably the best reasons to play this. Hold on, I don't know why the lighting looks like shit right now. Hold on. The sun is like coming through. Sorry, I'm just going to fix this while we're doing this. There we go. That's better. Such a scuffed recording. But I just gotta get this out. So, yeah. A lot of this matchup is opening with Terapagos. Because Pagos is not affected by a lot of their conventional tools, like Grimmsnarl hits us for 180, but it needs 2 Monkey Dories to knock it out, so it's kind of hard to get over the Terapagos in the early stages of the game. But it gets over opening Budews, it gets over opening Maractuses. You don't really want to hit a Maractus with this, though. It gets over, you can just gust up Snowrunts or Monkey Dories, and Terapagos really helps your early game. Your mid game is this. Virtuous Flame, Virtuous Flame, Virtuous Flame. It's pretty much that. So Zoroark is really, really good into the matchup because they need triple Monkey Dory plus a Frostlass tick to kill a Zoroark, but you also have your own Monkey Dory to bounce back the damage on this and punish like Budews that didn't die, or just general like board state stuff. You are able to bounce back the damage, put it on Grimmsnarl, or just generally you're able to definitely I don't know what I'm saying. This is very important. It's very important that you set up 2 Zoroarks. Do not question how scuffed this video is. I'm just trying to explain this deck. I have a lot of thoughts on it, so it's kind of just hard. So your general board state should look something like this. So, like Terapagos is opening up your bench, maybe has both of the psychic energies on it from attacking. You're going to have a lot of damage on your board, so you have to bounce it all back with Monkey Dory to protect your bench. And Zoroark is hitting with Virtuous Flame the entire game. Ideally, what you're doing is you are using Boss and your counter catchers to go around the Grimmsnarl, because and to go boss the Monkey Dories or the Frostlass to knock out. so that they aren't able to just bounce damage off of their Grimmsnarl onto Zoroark to help knock it out. You want them to Shadow Bullet Zoroark for not knockout, because then you go Powerful Rage, knockout in return. You're trying to force them into a bad board state, which this deck is very, very adept at doing. You are able to force really bad game states for them. Another big thing that happens very often is Area Zero will be in play. You're going to have a board that looks something like this. And then they're going to go Spike Myth Gym bounce. But then now you have agency to discard a bunch of the damage on your board that's being set up. So let's say you discard Fez, Latias, Pecharunt. All of those had damage on them from either Monkey or Frostlass pings, but now all that damage is gone. Yes, Monkey Dory can't move, but Monkey Dory probably moving damage off of Zoroark or Shaman or this Zoroark or Terapagos. So it really doesn't affect you that much, while it gives your opponent really bad game states where if they don't have a Gust, but they need the support, they need the gym down, they're not going to be able to really well deal with the board in its entirety before I can just get rid of it, bounce it all into graveyard. So that's the matchup synopsis. It's definitely like, I'd say 55-45 in their favor. It's pretty even, honestly, after playing it. I have not yet lost to it in locals because I haven't lost a game in locals. But, one game, my opponent priced Secret Box when he could have had a very good setup against me. But the other one I played a very tight game, but he kind of missed Frostlass a lot. And even with Frostlass, I had Monkey Dory bounce backs, and I didn't play very well because I let the Monkey Dory die really quickly. But generally, it's not a bad matchup. It's just a mid matchup. It's the one you aren't particularly fond of seeing because you have to play very particularly into it. You can't get too aggressive. And that's a new thesis for the deck is punishing. It's kind of the name of the game for this format, but it's punishing your opponent's bad plays. And it's forcing opponents into awkward positions, which this deck is very good at because it draws so many cards. You're able to find your Gust pretty easily with 2 Zoroarks and the Tatsugiri. You're really able to do so much to force your opponent into awkward board states. And that is a good segue into the modern way of playing against Pulse with this list. So it's this again, honestly. It's Zoroark and Reshiram because Terapagos, where is it? Terapagos is not great into it pairs very poorly. If they're on Defiance Band, they're able to one-shot it. If not, they're able to just set up damage on it and take a potential 4-prize turn by going like Gust, like Hawlucha, Ping, Fez, Gust up, Fez, knockout, 3 onto here, knockout. So it definitely builds some very bad board states, but you need it to open your bench. But this is also a matchup where you don't really need it to open your bench, you just like to. So it's very much a game state thing of like, well, is my game state good enough where I feel like I can put down a Terapagos safely and I'm not going to get super punished by like a Gust on it and my opponent setting up damage on it. Like, do I think I'm going to get punished by that? If you don't think so, you can definitely open up your board with this. You can, get all your support Pokemon out. You definitely want, I think, very, very obviously, Monkey Dory, very good into the matchup. Able to, you can actually win a lot of games if they put down Shaman and they're setting up your damage on your board. You go Monkey Dory, move on to Shaman, and then you're setting up for a mid-turn knockout. This is also a matchup where Shaman always comes down, so Maractus is very good into this. You go in an early game, they put it down because of the threat of Darmanitan. You go, all right, Gust, Maractus, Monkey Dory, mid-turn knockout, Darmanitan, then hit with the Flame Body Cannon, take 2 off of like Dracloak, or whatever. So this also a very like strong competent play. But if you can't do that, if these 3 are not options, what you can do, throw Zoroark in the active, 2 energies on him, obviously to attack, and you go Virtuous Flame into all of the... So, okay. I know I'm just starting and not finishing sentences, but one of the biggest threats to this deck is Pulse Dusk Noir. Dusk Noir really increases their ceiling because they're able to go Dusk Noir 130, punch into knockout, and then now you don't have a powerful rage setup. So what you actually do a lot of the games is take like what look like bad gusts where you go boss up Duskull and just Night Joker Virtuous Flame to knockout, and that looks really bad. But if they only have like one or two on the board, then it is going to decrease their ceiling by a lot. And if they're on straight pull, you have a way better matchup because they can't one-shot a Zoroark ever. Even with Monkey Dory for 30 plus Defiance Band, they're not able to kill. The consistency from the Pult Pidge build is very good, and that's their engine that you can't take out. So you always kind of have to be worried about that one. But after you deal with the ghosts, you deal with the dragons, you deal with the babies. So you can go gusting up and knocking out the Dracloaks. This is because if you are knocking out the Dracloaks and they're not able to set up, they're not able to very well set up a second Dragapult, and they go, all right, knock out Zoroark. And they don't have if they don't have a Dracloak with energy, plus they are not playing Neo Upper, you then have, of course, the very strong play of Clefairy. Where is it? Clefairy, PP up, E switch, attach a Dark, and attach a. Where is it? Attach Psychic, retreat, bang, knock out a Dragapult. Full Moon Rondo is, nutty into this matchup. It's the reason to play Clefairy. It will it's pretty much always going to kill a Pult, and if it's a Pult player who's not on a Neo Upper, like you know the list, they're not on Neo Upper, this is so good because if they have not set up an EXP share, or if they just don't have a good enough board, but they wanted to get really overzealous and attack in, like maybe you had to start Terapagos, they wanted to get the damage on it early, or you start Petron and they go Gust Petron, knock it out, go behind really quickly, you then have such a good play of going Iono, Clefairy, Full Moon Rondo, knockout. Because if you're able to set up under Dragapult, you're able to get trades online, and you're drawing a lot of cards, but you're under Budu still, you could just sit back and wait for them to commit first. Because when they commit first, they're gonna lose. They really want you to commit first. And if you don't, you can punish a lot of very antsy players who really want to commit. Like, a lot of good players are not going to commit if they know the Clefairy is down. But also, a lot of players don't know the Clefairy is down. So, game 2 and 3, they're going to be playing around. They're going to be really scared of the Clefairy. But in game 1, they're not going to know about this, most likely. And they're going to pretty much let you get a very aggressive Clefairy. It trades 2 for 2 into Pult, unless, of course, they have unless they're able to Blood Moon it. Blood Moon very much works into Clefairy. Blood Moon is very annoying for Clefairy. It's why I didn't play Bravery Charm, because there's no reason to play Bravery Charm, because Clefairy is getting knocked out by Blood Moon anyway. But you just have to make them not have. You just have to play around them having a board where they can just go, all right, Blood Moon knock you out, Blood Moon attach knockout game. You can definitely play around that. If they have 2 prizes left, you don't go for a Clefairy line unless you also have 2 prizes left. Because if you go down to 1, they just go, all right, yeah, Blood Moon kill. So you have to know when to deploy the Clefairy, but when you deploy the Clefairy, it's probably going to win the game. I played against an aggressive Pult opponent, the Pult Bat Dusk Noir build player. He was Psychic Attach, Neo Upper, because he had to. He had no other energies. Swing into, something, knock it out. He was down 3 prizes, but, that 3 is not 2, and he had already discarded his Blood Moon. So I was able to Full Moon Rondo, Clefairy, punch to knockout, and he didn't have a good enough board set up to find a good crackback, so he had to pass. So then, this Clefairy is still threatening a bunch of damage onto anything and threatening any knockouts, but I still had my trades online to, trade, attach, Virtuous Flame, so that I could protect this Clefairy for if something else came down. Even if he made another Pult, I think he even made a second Pult, but I was able to go Stretcher back, PP up, E switch again, Full Moon Rondo again, and it just he lost because he really couldn't crack back from this. I think that's what happened. I don't remember perfectly. It's also just really good at killing Fezzes on their board or something. Like, if they're not committing, but they have like Fez down because they either opened it or just they were gonna research, but they felt like they needed it down. You can also just punish it. You just go, all right, Gus Clefairy knockout. Like, I'll take 2. That's fine because you're able to play around Unfair Stamp and Ionos pretty well. That's definitely like what the Pulp matchup looks like. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of Monkey Dory trying to set up 2-turn knockouts or 3-turn mid-turn knockouts with Adrenabrain. Adrenabrain obviously I've talked at length about how on Twitter how I think this is like the best card out of Twilight Masquerade. It's really insane. It does so much for every deck. Also, I guess you can mention this kind of wins the game into very specific game states. They're down to 1, you're down to 2. There's damage on your board. You can go Irritated Outburst, 300 plus Monkey Dory, Adrenabrain 20 onto the active Pult knockout. How often will that happen? Not very. So I guess the other new, not new matchup, but the other big matchup you have to worry about is Gardevoir. It's not super hard. I have lost to Gardevoir, obviously. I missed at Milwaukee. I missed like boss for game against the Gardevoir once, and that obviously hurt. But now Monkey Dory's in the list, and you're able to bounce back damage. I wasn't on this before, but if they are not very careful and they leave and they Monkey Dory damage onto your board and they just there's like bloody damage left on your board, you're able to just go, all right, Adrenabrain, knock out your attacker, and then they're definitely gonna be on way on the back foot if you're able to go Adrenabrain, knock out attacker, boss, Gardevoir, Virtuous Flame for knockout. And in this discussion, I'm really explaining, I think, explaining in quotes, why Reshran is so necessary now. Virtuous Flame is just insane. Like 170 is a good number, and then it being able to knock out Gardevoir is also so important. If you prize this in the Gardevoir matchup, it becomes way harder. A very smart Gardevoir opponent will recognize you are getting a lot of Pokemon on the bench mostly, and they have Clefairy. So a good Gardevoir opponent will understand, okay, Clefairy Bravery Charm is actually really good in this matchup because Zoroark Defiance Band can't kill it. Only a Blood Moon or a Max Bench Pagos can. But the problem with going Max Bench Pagos is then they have a 280 Clefairy that bombs your Zoroark. I did not know how to play around this. I now do. It's Blood Moon. You get to if they do that, they take 2 off of a Zoroark, you go Blood Moon, or you just play really conservatively with your board. You don't bench all the way up, but you still have to be very careful because Monkey Dory is still so solid. If the Psychic Energies are already there and they don't have damage down, but they still have them in Graveyard, you have to play around them just going, all right, Monkey Dory, move to knockout. So Clefairy is really scary, but you're gonna have to Blood Moon it or Pagos it, and it's very when it hits the board, and if they understand that, okay, this is how I'm gonna win the matchup gets a little harder. If you play as conservatively as possible, where you're only where your board pretty much looks like this, it's just Zorwas, maybe Darmanitan because you wanted to threaten it, and then also the Reshiram and the Monkey Dory. This plays into it fine. You still it's a lot of dealing with the Clefairy when it comes down, if they understand that Clefairy is really good into the matchup. But once you're able to get through the Clefairy, you definitely play they start having to play your game. You're able to boss up Gardevoirs and knock it out. And if they don't have another Ralt set up, they're gonna lose. If they don't have a full bench and they're not able to fill up their own bench, or if you're able to disrupt their Monkey Dories with Virtuous Flame or even Flame Body Cannon to knock out and set up damage somewhere else. There's a lot of ways to play the matchup. It's not free. I'd say it's a 70-30 in your favor. Maybe 65-45. I also should have mentioned the Pult matchup is 50-50. It depends on the skills of both players. it's really it's hard for you to play, but that's also just because the deck is hard to play. I think another very important match to talk about is EVs. EVs is a scary ass matchup. So originally, me and my friend Jake had theorized that EVs was actually our worst matchup because they're able to swing 280 into you. I have now since learned that this is not the case at all. So first of all, if they ever have to Burning Charge into you, you could then have Monkey Dory, move 30, Pagos, or Blood Moon for knockout. This is like the Pagos matchup. Pagos, so good in this matchup. Area Zero is pretty much always going to be in play, so you can always, have a full board plus, and then you're able to go like Monkey Dory, move 30, knockout, or even you have, where is it? This is why we play the Defiance Band, so you're able to go Defiance Band, 2 energies if you're behind, obviously. Do this, imagine I have 8 Pokemon on my board, 270 to knock out a Clefairy, plus if they don't put down Shaman, I don't know if they're playing Shaman or not. I'm not sure what all the good players are doing, but if they don't, you have Darumaka Darmanitan, 2 energy on a Zoroark. If they put down Mew, or if they have Latios down, which is more likely, and you're able to go Defiance Band, Night Joker, Flame Body Cannon, knock out the Latios, or you can also do that with Monkey Dory. You just move 30 onto it and knock it out, where you don't need the Defiance Band, you can go to the Pagos. You go Zoroark to knock it out, and then knock out either Hoodoo or Fanrotom, because it's a 3-prize turn, and then it goes around the Briar turn. Playing around the Briar turn is very important. Briar will win them a lot of games. So you just have to be very careful around that. Also, of course, Defiance Blood Moon works. Your Gust is also really important because, while they're active attacker, their active EV evolution is very good. So they're having very squishy benched Pokemon. Fez is just a sitting duck for Pagos 3 energy knockout, or Pagos 7 bench Pokemon knockout, or 8 benched with a Defiance Band, or even 6 bench with Monkey Dory plus Defiance Band, though that's very rarely going to happen. If they go down to 1, you have Petrun to knock out. Like, you have a lot of outs to winning this matchup. Additionally, for this matchup, you might think, oh, it can't be that good because they can Angelite you. Well, okay, so let's look at a board where you say oh, Angelite is a very big threat here. It would probably look something like this. Angelite is not a threat on this board. You might say, oh, well, they can just get rid of both your Zoroarks. I still knock out with Terapagos. I go punch with Terapagos. They have to go 160 in, and I still knock out with the punch, and I still have the ability to just set up Zoroark again. And then I'm fine. And then I still am winning. And they've pretty much wasted a turn doing absolutely fucking nothing. Angelite is just not particularly great into this deck. Even if I have a Zoroark inactive that just use Flame Body Cannon, and they go, alright, Angelite, get rid of both of the Terapagoses. And then you say, alright, well, Area 0, discard down. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Discard that or something. You're only discarding 1. It doesn't really change much. You do want the double Pagos set up because they're just very good attackers. What else also knocks out is Clefairy. Clefairy gets a lot of kills in this matchup. Very important card for this matchup too. I would definitely say this is a 60-40 matchup in the favor of Zoroark. It's just very strong. The deck is just so good at disrupting Noctowl engine decks. I think that's the most important, the 4 most important matchups I'd say going into NAIC. I can't really imagine what else is going to be super important to see. But a lot of decks, even into fringe ass matchups, say Ho-Oh Armarouge. Zoroark, very good card. Trading often, always knowing what to trade, having, knowing what are your best attackers into later game scenarios. Is it Blood Moon? Is it Clefairy to close out games? Is it Pagos to close out games? Do I have to win with a Maractus lock? It's all very important to understand. do they have something that can swing over to Zoroark, or am I safe to put this in the active and force them to put me into a powerful rage? That is a lot of what this deck does. It is forcing opponents into bad spots. If they forcing them, after you force them into a bad spot, if they have to take the trade where it's like, okay, I have to punch into this Zoroark just to get any sort of advantage, or I don't punch at all and a complete sitting duck. That happens so often. I guess I don't even need to talk about Goldengo, because Goldengo has not shown up like whatsoever, and I already kind of did when I talked about Volcanion. Like, the Goldengo matchup is Volcanion for Terapagos knockout, but also having a benched one prizer, having 2 one prizers in play if you're using your Darmanitan line, because you have to play around bundle. I lost a bundle before, so it's just playing around bundle. Just always play around bundle, especially with this list. I think playing around bundle is just very good. That's the deck profile. The deck is incredible. The deck is very good. Obviously, I've had a very good run at locals with it. I have won a lot of packs with it, and I am guaranteed bringing this to NAIC. I'll be able to explain even more at NAIC if whoever's listening to this is at NAIC and wants to get more of a primer about the deck. I wouldn't learn it the night before. That's not a good idea. But no, the deck is incredible. The deck does so much. Again, very, very high skill floor. Getting into the deck is not super easy, but I hope this video is going to help. I don't want to gatekeep anything about the list. But I think the reward you get for playing it well obviously is very high. You get it definitely is able to win a lot of games, also because it's such a surprise factor list. A lot of people don't know how to play around it, even in games 2 and 3. They have to take a beat to understand it. And that's just generally that's what makes this deck so good. It's Zoroark with a ceiling. Zoroark's ceiling is normally 170 damage and drawing a bunch of cards, but now its ceiling is 240 or 280 with Clefairy, and plus getting all these options and other ways to attack and not threaten your engine. And it's just really good. It's probably the best deck. It's nowhere near best deck in the format. It's definitely the best deck I've been playing and that I've made. It very rarely feels like I'm totally out of a game unless I've just drawn complete dog shit. But the deck is also designed to draw as little dog shit as possible. You have so many ways out of dog shit. Like turn 1, all of these cards are outs of dog shit. People will be like, wow, I can't believe you set up. But it's like, no, of course I'm going to set up a good board. All of these are how I set up boards. These can grab Squawk, this grabs Squawk, this grabs Trolley. Trolley is everything. It's setting up a board is not the hard part. Playing the entire game is the hard part. It's a taxing deck. It's a trade engine deck. It does a lot. Understanding when you should PP up, when you should E-switch, and, what you're doing every turn is hard, but as you keep playing and as you keep putting time into it, it becomes easier. And also it becomes really fun. I think the deck is extremely fun too. I played this 8 rounds of Milwaukee, went 4-4. I lost to my own misplays a lot because I was working on the deck. I didn't have the perfect build with the Serranos and the Monkey Dory, but I still had so much fun playing this deck. It is truly a blast. So I'm going to cut it off there. Thanks for listening to this hour-long ramble of me talking about a homebrew deck that has been doing super well for me, that I've been asked to, comment on and talk about. Thanks for your time. This is very fun for me. See ya.